All right, so let's go ahead and pick up where we left off. And I realize, so this is at this point in my journey, what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose the topic of social justice. Companies support political causes and profit, which is good for business. I think another topic that I think is interesting is that sometimes the political causes can benefit. Um, Also, you've got the idea that sometimes it's unethical to uh, for companies to use the image of the group, like of social justice, if they don't mean it. So you can see, like, these are the things that I think about when I think about social justice and advertising. So, for example, like a company like Nike, they mentioned the example of, let's see, do I still have that article up? They mentioned the example of Nike recruited Colin Kaepernick, who's connected to Black Lives Matter and has this really political or this really political stance within the United States, and people have these connections about him, to him and what he stands for. He stands for the that he's upset about the police brutality against black men. So it's really nice that the Nike is supporting him, putting his image out there, making it kind of normal for him to be seen. But at the same time, maybe they're just doing that because they know that they'll make money. So we can see that, the Nike's profits soared. So maybe what they've done is just doing that because they knew that they would make a lot of money. So that's something that I guess I want to think about, like, that is interesting to me. So then I want to make sure that we don't forget to look at our directions. So that was prompted by my own interests. So I'm just going to read that so you can remember that. Topics for research can be found in your own backyard. So not literally, or maybe literally, but let's see the examples that they give. For example, a student needing to write a paper on small businesses noticed that a restaurant he frequented had closed recently. He found his topic, the difficulties of running a restaurant. Another student had to write a class assigned paper having to do with the environment. Looking around her neighborhood, she noticed many smaller, older homes being torn down only to be replaced by much larger new homes that removed existing trees and grass and required more energy to heat and cool. She had found her topic, the teardown epidemic. So that's the idea that, like, look at the examples that are interesting to you. You can look at SDSU, you can look at, restaurants you like, or, maybe even, traveling, whatever is interesting to you. I really encourage you to think about. And then what's going to be important is that it has a connection to corporate social responsibility. So, connection to CSR, which, balance of, like, companies. So, like, that means the profits, the management, and, like, how well they do. Stakeholders. So, or I'm just going to say directly connected. So, those who are directly connected. So, that's going to be like customers, employees, let me see, shareholders, and indirectly connected. So that's going to be, general public, environment, things like that. And depending on what your topic is, like, these are going to change. So it might be helpful to think about, like, if you're thinking about, how things get made, it might be also to think about the people who are directly connected as maybe the suppliers or people they get supplies from, workers down the line, things like that. So you can also think about, yeah, these different things. And so if I think about, I kind of like this topic of social justice, where companies can support political causes, and the idea that, like, okay, they're profiting. How are the customers affected? How are different people affected? And then also the idea of, like, well, how is the group or the, like, cause that they're using, that imagery that they're using in their advertisement, how are they affected? So that's, those are going to be the people that I'm thinking about. And, like, maybe if they, depending on if they do it right or wrong, like, it could have consequences. So let me try going to, and so you can look at those topics, and you can look at these topics, and then you can see that, like, okay, let's go to the catalogs and the databases. And let's see what the reader has to say about that. So if we look at page 114, catalogs and databases, we get this explanation here where it says, in Chapter 16, Finding Sources, we show how to find resources using library databases and internet search tools such as Advanced Search and Google. See page 343 to 47 for help with searching databases and using web search engines. Reading the titles of articles and other sources on your general topic is a good brainstorming technique, as the titles alone can suggest interesting ways to focus on a research question. For example, some titles that came up in a research about college student debt suggest possible questions for further research. So here's the titles, and then here are the questions. So you can see that a lifetime of student debt, not likely, college students' knowledge and use of credit. So here are these questions that should colleges offer courses in budgeting and managing personal finances. So I've even got, like, from this question right here, should corporate social responsibility programs embrace social justice? So this is, this gives me my question already. And I'm even going to try, like, corporate social responsibility. I'm going to type in that topic as well as the topic social justice. Here we go. So I've got this right here, and let me see. Corporate social responsibility, ethical leadership and trust. Okay, so it looks like I'm having, yeah, it's okay. So we've got this. This one looks pretty decent. Let's see. When is it from? So it's from 2007. So I think things have changed a lot since 2007 on this topic. So I'm gonna skip that one since it's not very recent. So this one's fairly recent. So, and I can see that it's about 16 pages, so I think that's a good choice. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that, get that full text. I got to sign in, so I'll go ahead and do that. Student employee login. Login. Okay, we're taking some time to log in. All right, and then let's see. I'm going to go ahead, click on that. I'm going to tell them my information again. So all this authentication. So I'm going to go back to the results list for now. Hopefully this goes through. All right, so let me see. I'm going to download this PDF. And here we go. I've got my article. So let's look at the abstract. So we investigate the effects of corporate social responsibility on consumer advocacy behaviors towards corporate brands. We focus on mediating roles of positive moral emotions, awe, gratitude, and elevation, and attitudes. Moral emotions. Okay, yeah. So the moderating effects of social justice values and empathy on such mediation processes are further explored. A between subjects field experiment is used to test our hypotheses on a sample of, of adult consumers. The results show that both positive moral emotions and attitudes mediate the effect of perceived CSR actions on brand advocacy behaviors. However, social justice values and empathy play a different role in regulating the elicitation of moral emotions and attitudes, spreading depending on the type of CSR actions. We add to extant research on CSR and consumer brand relationships by showing that CSR actions influence brand advocacy of corporate brands, further providing an integrated theoretical framework to explain psychological mechanisms underlying such an effect. So this sounds like it's not directly connected to the questions or the ideas that I want, but I think it has a lot of good ideas in it. So also one thing that's interesting is there's two authors from Norway and then one of them from Michigan, so I'm not sure where the main focus is going to be. Another thing is that what I recommend doing is you can read the introduction or the theoretical background and see who they reference. And if they list an idea that you really like, look at that reference, look at that article. That's a great technique to use. Even if the article itself isn't exactly what you want, they may be drawing on ideas that are going to be super helpful for you. And another good place to look is going to be the works cited. You've got all of these articles right here, several dozen articles that you can look at some of the, like titles and see if some of those are interesting to you. I think a lot of these are like even links. So you can just click on the link and let's see. Okay, so that goes to something, and let me see. Can you download the PDF? Okay, so you've got to log in. You can check with the librarian about how to do that. But anyway, I wanted to point out that there's a lot of good way that I think going through this process and finding some of these topics. So like I'm even going to just take the what's the title of this article? The impact of corporate social responsibility on consumer brand advocacy, the role of moral emotions, attitudes, and individual differences. So let's go and I'm going to copy, I think that's what they recommend doing. What did they say here? They said, yeah, write the titles. So I'm going to also put the title, should corporate social responsibility programs embrace social justice? So that's really a little big, so I'm going to change that. So, so we've got these different titles, and I think, this can come up with some questions. So, so this can, like, this article right here can come up with a question of how do people's attitudes change? And maybe I think about like another question that I don't see answered here so far, which is fine, like is what is the effect on people who are a part of the group the company is trying to help? So these are some good questions, I think, to have as you're looking through this, because this is going to get you thinking. This is going to make you interested in the more interesting